If I said something unexpected is going to happen to you today, what's your mind quickly go to? Just take note, because I've learned, for me, when I am more predominantly in the anxious energy, the unknown needs to be controlled. The unknown is scary. The unknown is bad. But let me tell you, we consciously know the unknown is where the magic happens. The unknown is how the universe can supply this beautiful, magical, synchronistic miracle into your existence. But when we are trying to control things have to be a certain way, then we are kinking our energetic hose, our energetic supply to those miracles. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sovereign Self Show, where you learn how your emotions and your body are not in the way. They're actually leading the way to your success, to your own awakening ascension journey as this beautiful light being here on planet Earth. And again, I'm your host, Lauren Chalantani, and we are coming up on our 7th year of this show, formerly called Witchy Wellness Radio, many, many moons ago. And I wanted to do this solo episode to really dive into the topic of anxiety and fear, because last episode, I'll link it in the show notes, I did a whole episode on Ascension Symptoms, how you're physically feeling with all this really intense high vibrational energy, how your body is processing it. And I also touched on the emotional aspect of it. But today I wanted to deep dive into just anxiety, because I know that was the part that started me on my awakening journey to start to question and do things differently, was just living out of this constant state of fear and chronic panic attacks, like I was just being cracked open. So I really wanted to deep dive into this, how we can actually work with our anxiety and the fear, what they actually are, and how you can harness it to actually grow, to keep up with that expansion, and how they're just really your emotional guidance system working. So first, I've told my story many times on here, but to really bring it down to a succinct storyline, during my college graduation over 15 years ago, during the ceremony itself, how poetic, right? I had my first panic attack. I kind of knew what was happening, but from that point on, chronic panic attacks, especially when I first started my corporate 9-to-5 job that I was at for over a decade, just constant panic attacks. And the sensitive soul that I am, I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, I am sensitive to different chemicals, different fragrances, and even medication. So at the time, I wasn't as holistic as I am now, tried taking some anti-anxiety medicine, but had really bad side effects. I was super dizzy, couldn't walk, clearly couldn't drive. So it was a blessing in disguise that I really had to start to take a look at myself, to take a look at what was coming up. And at the time, I did the best that I could. I started eating healthier. I lost a bunch of weight. I felt the best I'd ever been feeling. And then fast forward, going through a divorce, really seeing parts of myself that were the underlying issues of this anxious personality, of being the codependent energy, of controlling my environment, controlling the food I ate. I was in the best shape of my life. But internally, that was what led me to create this show. I was in the best shape of my life. My body was literally screaming at me. So over 7-8 years ago, I had the idea to start this podcast. And that brought a whole new wave of anxiety to actually share my message, to speak my truth. And even just talking about this story now, I have so much love for that version of me. I have so much love, but also I feel that tightness. I feel the anxiety. I feel what she was going through, what I was going through. And so, I want to share that anxiety and fear are part of the emotional spectrum. They're here to help propel us towards our growth. And really what helped me start to reframe the fear and anxiety is it's just unused or maybe unfocused life force energy. And it's a little bit different of a perspective that some people might take. And anybody who's anxious can feel how all-consuming it is and how much energy it is. Yes, it drains you, but you can feel the power of it. So just ask yourself, this is a very simple trick you can do. Ask yourself, what if this was just unfocused energy? What if this was just my inner being, my higher self, coming in trying to help, but because I'm perceiving this as bad, because I'm perceiving this as limiting or fear-based, that's the way I'm seeing it. That's the way I'm feeling it. Because if we get down to it, anxiety is very close to the energy of excitement. So sometimes it really just takes the perspective shift of what am I really excited about? If anxiety is the fear or lack version of this energy, what is this telling me? Well, it's telling me I'm focused on that side of the stick. So how can I start to look at this differently? How can I be grateful for this to start to shift? What would I be excited about creating right now? That's been a huge tool, a huge help in my journey through working with anxiety. And I think, for me, we are traveling full time right now, which has been amazing and very challenging for me because a lot of those old patterns that I thought, honestly, I had under control are coming up. And it's because I can't control my environment, right? We're staying in places for at least a month at a time, but constantly changing environment, routines, exploring new areas. And so a lot of that old energy has been activated in me because it's ready to be seen. I'm ready to master a new part of myself. And I've been reminded of, really humbled by all this, that we really do create our own reality. I really create my own reality. It's never the environment. It's never the other person. We want to think it's those things, but it's really us. At the end of the day, if we change the way that we look at things, the things around us will change. And anxiety and this fear, very similar sometimes, are showing us that we are growing, that we are changing beyond that normal, that glass ceiling. We're starting to bump up against it. We might even be cracking that glass ceiling. We might even be breaking through. So the anxiety, that fear response, are to show us that, hey, we're stepping outside the unknown. We're stepping outside the norm here. So if we know that's what it is, how can you start to proactively build your own relationship with the unknown? If I said something unexpected is going to happen to you today, what's your mind quickly go to? Is it, oh my God, what happened? Something bad. Or is it, yay, and delight and excited, or something in between? Just take note, because I've learned, for me, when I am more predominantly in the anxious energy, the unknown needs to be controlled. The unknown is scary. The unknown is bad. But let me tell you, we consciously know the unknown is where the magic happens. The unknown is how the universe can supply this beautiful, magical, synchronistic miracle into your existence. But when we are trying to control, things have to be a certain way, people have to be a certain way, I need to do these things a certain way, then we are kinking our energetic hose, our energetic supply to those miracles. And I know you're listening to this because you're on this journey and you are growing and you have big dreams, and so do I. And there's a balance of still being able to take the action, but from this aligned place. Working with our anxiety, working with the fear. And when these thoughts bubble up, I like to look at the acronym for fear. False evidence appearing real. And honestly, sometimes it is real evidence appearing real. So in those moments, how can you learn to regulate yourself? How can you learn to remember who you are? And if getting specific, whatever's coming up is too much for you, how can you take a step back and go as broad and as general as you need to go? Everything is always happening for me. I love knowing that law of attraction is always working. Everything is always working out. Everything's always working out for me and everybody else. Contrast, this emotion I'm feeling right now is part of the process. When we can start to allow, it's really this practice of allowing, go as general as you need to, even laying down in bed, how comfortable the pillow is, can help us start to build that energetic momentum forward, to start to pull back from that fear, anxiety, all-consuming energy that sometimes we get lost in. And I have been reminded through traveling full-time, and like I said, very humbled, that part of me coming up that I thought was, done and over. And I'm here sharing with you guys. We think that we're on this beautiful cyclical journey. And we think, oh gosh, maybe it's not so beautiful because these patterns are coming up again. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm making a circle in the air with my finger. But what we don't really realize is it's actually, we're doing this circle, but each time we go around and learn, we are raising our vibration. We are raising our awareness, our consciousness. We are growing. So yes, it's a circle. And each time we go up, it's shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter because we get to practice what we preach. We know more. We can't unknow what we didn't know before. So if you are going through that stage in your life right now where things feel tough, where, you're losing a little bit of hope, or you're losing that sight, but know that this is part of the process of the manifestation. This is the process of the ascension, of stepping into who you really are, which is super powerful. And the anxiety and the fear, doesn't matter where they came from, what belief system is there, really is calling us to learn to master ourselves this lifetime, which means the power of focus. What we focus on will grow. So this is an invitation for you guys, how do you balance feeling what's coming up, owning where you are, and start to take the actions towards being your sovereign self? There's a reason why I called this show the Sovereign Self Show. Sovereignty to me means being the creator, the ruler of your own life. Trusting your decisions, trusting your gut, taking the aligned action, showing up for yourself, pushing yourself beyond what you think is possible, growing that inner fire, that inner strength, growing your external fire physically, mentally, emotionally. Being a sensitive soul on earth is not for the weak. Being a sensitive soul here, this lifetime on earth, for a reason. And I know in myself, it's been a journey of remembering and practicing that power that inherently lives inside of me. And I really want you guys to pause and think there. Your anxiety is leading you, is showing you to become your most powerful and sovereign self. Nobody else can do this for you. This is your continuous, constant reminder from you, directing you towards that ascension, towards your own awakening. And if we don't know where we're going, if you don't know what your purpose is, who you are, we can get stuck in the anxiety loop, like I talked about earlier, just this circle, going around in a loop, anxious, depressed, happy, anxious, depressed, happy, and loop and loop and loop and loop. But when you have a goal, when you have a focus, and that can even just be happy, joyful. But the more you can build that belief, the more you can build that positive focus forward, the easier it is to push yourself, the easier it is to grow, the easier it is to start to feel better. And I'm saying this as much as I am for you, for myself, because, when I feel like in this growth period, right, the dark night of the soul of whatever's coming up for you, that I feel like I'm in a little bit now, sometimes you take on the identity that everything's hard, that I'm going to be this victim forever. I'm a victim to life for my emotions. But it just comes down to, this whole episode can be simplified to this. How badly do you want to feel better? Are you willing to put your own emotions first? Are you willing to feel better by any means necessary? That's what mastery means to me. That's what sovereignty means to me. It's not about denying or resisting our feelings. It's about this continuous energy of growth mindset, but in a focused, positive direction. Literally becoming an ascended master this lifetime. Literally becoming heaven on earth in your body this lifetime through the emotional work. On my spiritual journey, I never thought it was going to be so much emotionally based. I always thought, out-of-body experience, Kundalini yoga, awakening. Yes, those things have happened for me. But time and time again, all of those mystical experiences, all those manifestations that have come into my life, as beautiful as they are, it's about who we are being every single moment, how we react in every single moment, and continually to push ourselves to grow, to build that strength, but to build our own muscle to feel better. And I really just felt called to share this. This is kind of what I've been reminding myself of lately, of what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on the toughness or the anxiousness or the unknown? Or am I focusing on, okay, owning where I'm at? I know what's coming up right now. This means I am growing. And my only job right now is to focus on that expansion, to focus on that growth moving forward. So the clearer you can get on who you are, why you want it, the easier the day-to-day will become. The mystical experience, the spiritual awakening isn't going to save you. You are saving you every single moment of your life. You are the Ascended Master. You are the Anointed One, whatever you want to call it, that you have been waiting for. And that is what this anxiety and this fear is calling you towards. If you guys feel like you might need a little extra support, I get it. I have a free download ebook who's going to teach you a simple breathwork technique when you are feeling the anxiety, when you do feel like on the verge of a panic attack. That was the one thing that actually saved me during my very chronic panic attack season of life. I'd be in a meeting where I couldn't get out of the meeting, and I would start to be, oh, I can't get out of the meeting, and here comes the panic. And this was the one thing, easy thing you can do. If you're driving, if you're talking to somebody, if you're in a checkout line at the grocery store, does not matter. That helped me regulate my body, regulate my nervous system, and it literally will balance the two hemispheres of your brain. I'll leave that in the show notes. It's called the Get Calm and Gain Clarity ebook. That will teach you this technique. Super easy to learn. But my heart goes out to each and every one of you guys. I really wanted to share this message with everybody because this is what I needed to hear right now too, is sometimes when you are growing, you feel like, well, I'm not at this perfect state. Who am I? The imposter syndrome. But what I really believe now is like sharing the realness of how I'm working through this, sharing the realness of it isn't all rainbows and butterflies, but I know that it's all happening for me so that I can experience and open my capacity up to experience more rainbows and butterflies, if you know what I mean. And I just launched today. This episode's going to come out the next day, but a turn your emotions into stories that sell course. This is for people who have a podcast, want to start a podcast, want to grow their business through social media, have that purpose, but are scared to share the real raw bits. And it's a full, really in-depth course, but it also is going to walk you through a simple somatic practice to own where you're at, own the anxiety or whatever emotions are coming up to do, and a few journaling questions, under 15 minutes total for you to really learn to work with your energy, own where you're at authentically, and how can you share where you're at with your audience, with your potential customers, because the honest to truth here is stories sell, facts do not sell. And as an empath, sometimes it's hard to want to create and be authentic when you feel all of these things. So this is why I created this course for you guys, is to really learn how to harness the power of any emotion so that you can show up and be your authentic self for you. And so you can be a bigger, better service to humanity and the collective. And I have a limited time bonus that I recorded. I think it's like over 45 minutes, might be over an hour, masterclass of the behind the scenes of like all the tips and tricks, easy things of how I built my podcast to become a top 2% podcast over the past few years. What you need to do, what you don't need to do, just like the streamlined things that I wish I knew that I had to do from trial and error, as well as how to manifest expert guest and how also to become an expert guest for other podcasts is a huge marketing tool to do, to share, to build your audience, to build your client list and all the beautiful things that come with that. So if you guys are interested, that limited time bonus is only going to be for a few days after this course launches. Everything is in the show notes. Thank you guys again for listening. I'm so honored to be on this journey with each and every one of you. Let me know if you're watching on YouTube, message me on Instagram if you're not. What were your takeaways from the show? But mostly, how are you learning to work with your anxiety to propel it towards your own success, to propel it towards being the master and the sovereign self of this lifetime? Let me know the show notes. Thank you guys. I love each and every one of you. Until next time.